All right. Hello. I'm back. This is the May Blooms prep video. I don't know why I always say good morning because it's not even morning. So I'm going to go through all the things that you need for the Stitchalong. So yeah, I'm super excited. We've got another Stitchalong. The videos will probably be in the evening after David gets off work because Miles is not really on a schedule at the minute. He's just falling asleep whenever he falls asleep. So there's really no big stretch of time, that I can tell you definitely this time every day. So I'm going to try and do it after David gets home from work. So they'll probably be in the evening my time. But they'll definitely still happen Monday through Friday every day. It'll be about 30 or 40 minutes long. I'm trying to think of anything else that I need to say before we just jump right in with the materials. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So let's just go through all the little things that you might need. So we've got some extra little tools, needles, all that kind of stuff. Hoops, the pattern, and I'll show you how to transfer it onto your fabric as well. So we've got a bunch of stuff to go through. If you have any questions at all, please put them in the comment section and they'll pop right up and I'll answer them right as we go through them. So don't be nervous or no question is a stupid question. Okay. So if this is your first time stitching, perfect. If you stitched a million times before, also perfect. Yeah, we're just gonna go through it. So the first thing that we've got here is fabric. So I'm gonna use a 100% cotton. You want anything that's got no stretch. So I've just got a white 100% cotton. Really lovely fabric to stitch on. You can also use something like a linen. Linens are a little bit more expensive. At least the ones that I've seen, in my local fabric shop. But yeah, you'll find these in the quilting section if you are in places like Joann Fabrics or, what's the other one called? Hobby Lobby. Not a big Hobby Lobby fan, to be fair, but it's in the quilting fabric section. If you're in Joann Fabrics, they're in right when you walk through the door, there's a whole wall of fabric, and they tend to be all one color. So all of the pinks, all the blues, all the greens, all kind of all together. And that's where you'll find regular cotton like this that has no stretch in it. Really, really lovely to stitch on. There's the Country Classics Quilting Cotton, I think it's called. And that's something like $4.99 for a yard, which is super affordable. And you don't have to get a whole yard. You can get a half or a fourth. Some people do minimums, but yeah, you can just get what you need, if you know what I mean. And then the linens are normally in a separate section from that. So they'll be a little bit more expensive. There's also the Kona Cotton. You can search for Kona Cotton online, Kona, and they have really lovely fabrics to stitch on as well. But they're a little bit more expensive too. So they are sometimes $9.99 to $12.99 per yard. So it just depends on what you like. You can also search through your linen cupboards and find things like old sheets or pillowcases, tablecloths. One of my friends actually got started because she took one of those curtain, for your bath curtains or whatever they're called. Baths. Yeah, just a bath curtain. If you're new here, this just happens. Sorry. But yeah, she took, the fancy ones that go on the outside of the bath, not the plastic ones that go on the inside. But she actually had one of those that she didn't want anymore. So she just cut that up because it was cotton and she started stitching that way. So, go ahead and have a look around. As long as it has no stretch, you're going to be good. So there we have the two that I recommend. Beth says, I found a bunch of Kona Cotton at a yard sale last year and it was the best find ever. That's amazing. Oh, I love stuff like that. So there's our fabrics. Some people like to stitch with 2 layers of fabric. I'm not a big fan of that, but other people do like it. So it just depends on what you prefer. Some people like the 2 layers because then you don't have to be careful with where you stitch, meaning if you want to go from here to here, you can just make your thread that long and you can skip around wherever you want to, because the 2 layers make it a little bit less see-through. It just depends on what you like. So yeah, you can use a white one, you can use a colored one. It's completely up to you. This is kind of where the stitch-alongs are really fun because you can really make it your own and do your own thing. Whilst I give you the majority of the instruction, you can really like let your creativity and imagination go wild. How cringy is that? But it's so true. Like, you can really do what you want to do. And without being too crazy about it. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? So there's fabrics. Remember, we're looking for no stretch at all. Okay, let's go over to the tools. So I've got a lot of the same thing here. Almost all of these are pretty much the same thing. And we've got a couple other options here as well. So my favorite option that I'm going to go through first is the Pilot Heat Erasable Friction Pen. You can find these with the Friction. These are usually in the stationery section where they keep all of the pens. So places like Target, places like Sainsbury's, if you're in the UK like I am. I think they have them at Asda, like just regular grocery store places. You don't have to go anywhere crazy. Amazon obviously has them. And what it is you're supposed to erase with friction, which means you'll find this little white nub on the end, or silver, whatever you want, whatever color, gray. Sometimes they're the color of the pen, like this one. Yeah. So they erase with friction, but the other thing that they do is they erase with heat. So what you can do is draw your pattern out, and I'm going to show you how to do that. And then when you're all finished, we just take a hairdryer and we just basically blow it off. And all of the lines will disappear. It's literally like magic. Now, some people have said that the lines can reappear, like if you put your project in the freezer, or if you are exhibiting somewhere outside or something like that, then some of the lines can come back. But I actually haven't had that happen. Sometimes they can leave like a ghost line, which means that it's like you've erased it with the hairdryer, but you can kind of see like a little shimmery line on your project still. And I found just a little bit of cold water, just dabbed on there and then let it to dry naturally. Can get rid of those as well. So I've had really good luck with these. Some people don't like them. I tend to stay away from the red because they tend to leave the biggest line. It's like more of like a yellow line, whereas things like green, purple, black, blue, they've been good for me so far. So I love these. I have so many because I want to show you that there's different line thicknesses. So let's just flip this over. So you've got the finest one, which is 05. Any of these will work. I'm just showing you the different thicknesses that you can use. So we've got, I think this is out of ink actually. You can actually get inserts for these as well. So if you don't want to buy the whole pen, you can just buy these. And they work. This is out of ink. So I can't show you how thin that one is. Isn't that perfect? Then you have the 7, which is what most stores will carry. And you'll find it's really, really small in the swirls. Yeah, 7. And it looks like this. And then there's also a 10, which looks like this. So it's a really subtle difference, but obviously you've got the thicker line and then a thinner, and then the 5 is thinner still. So what you'll find, what I normally do is I'll do the outline in like a 7 or a 10. And then when I go to show instruction, I'll use the 5. Oops, that's a 7. I'll use the 5 that's really thin and kind of show you like guidelines for where to stitch. Like if you wanted to put a stitch guideline in, say for example, if we did satin stitch here, and I'll show you exactly how to set those up so that, you know, you can have a good time stitching and not be worried about, you know, where do I put my next stitch or anything like that. And they're really helpful. There's also these ones, which I actually haven't tried yet. I bought them, oh my God, ages ago. But these are the fine liner ones. And they look like this. Instead of like the gel pen kind of thing, they have a different kind of tip to them. Some people have really, really liked these. I also have ones that are like a highlighter, and people have said that they like those as well. So it just depends on what you like. Now, the other options you have are obviously a regular old pencil. Now, the pros and cons of a pencil is that, one, everyone has pencils, so they're super easy to gather. You've got a pencil at home, I'm sure you do. And you can use that. That's completely fine. The only downside of a pencil is that you need to stitch directly on the line or just outside the line to cover the pencil line up, because you can't erase the pencil line on the fabric. It's quite difficult. So there's that. So pros and cons. The second thing we have here is this. This is what I bought this ages ago from Joann Fabrics. It's an invisible, not invisible. It's a air soluble pen. So it's really, really old. It's more like a marker. And then these lines will become invisible just in the air. So after about 20, 30, 40 minutes, they'll just disappear. So that's great if you want to add some little, look, it's so old. Oh my gosh. If you want to add some little guidelines or something like that, I would not recommend this for this project, because we're only going to do a little bit a day. So you'd have to literally draw your pattern over and over and over each day to get the next part. So there's that. This I got in Joann Fabrics. Joann Fabrics. And this is in the quilting section. So it's the disappearing ink air soluble pen. Just kind of disappears with the air. This one here is the water erasable pen, the Kering water erasable pen. This is great, but you do have to get your project wet to erase it. So just keep that in mind if you are not comfortable with that, or if you feel like, oh, that's a really big step for my first project. It's really not. It's really not that big of a deal, but some people are just a little bit weary. Like, I've done all this work and now I have to submerge it in water. Oh my God. So yeah, this is also like a marker. Looks like that. Some of them are purple, some of them are blue, some of them are green. But yeah, you do have to get them wet to erase them. So there's that. The other thing is that if you don't get it wet enough, you'll find like a little, like an outline of where the ink hasn't rinsed out all the way. So you might have a little like outline around your project. So you really do have to like soak it, not just spray a little bit and be conservative with the water. You really need to soak it. And I learned that the hard way, when you've got a deadline and it has to be sent off, and I'm the idiot who's like putting my project under the water and then blow drying it off, and then putting it under and blow drying it off because I didn't actually put enough water on it. And then we have two other options here. These are if you have dark colored fabric, or fabric where you feel like a black pen is not going to show. Meaning that if you trace it onto your fabric, the black won't show up. So we've got two different options here. We have the Jelly Roll. This is just a regular stationery pen. It's the Jelly Roll pen. Okay, you can get them like at any stationery shop or online, with the white ink. So obviously the pro of this is that you can see it because it's white ink, but the con is that it doesn't erase. So again, like the pencil, you've kind of got to know exactly where you're going to stitch, or you're going to see those lines around your stitching. And then the other one is the water soluble marking pencil. I can't remember where I got this one actually, but this is another one where you can draw on your dark colored fabric, get it wet, and it will erase. So the only con is that you have to erase it. So there's that. I'm pretty sure that's all the ones that I've covered. You can also use something like Sticky Solvy, which is a paper that you print on. So here's what I'm going to do for Miles for Easter. Okay, so you print on it. So I've drawn this little rabbit face, and I've put it through the printer. They come in big sheets. So I've actually printed a bunch of stuff just to use up the paper. And then what you do is you peel it off like this. Do you see how it's like kind of, let's see, got like little dots in it kind of. Then you stick that onto your project, and then you don't have to trace it all. I'll show you how to trace in just a minute. But the the pro of this is obviously that you don't have to trace it. So, you know, all these little details and stuff you don't have to do. But the con is that you do have to get it wet. So it's not an option. You stitch on it and then you get it wet and it soaks off. So you have to really, really drench it with warm water, not hot water and not cold water. It does work with cold water, but it just takes ages. It works way better if it's a little bit warm. I do have some hoops that I haven't finished that still have it on it. If you wanted to have a little idea of what it looked like, because I didn't actually finish one of them. This one. Here we go. So this was the Plant Sanctuary Stitchalong from last year, actually around this time. And you can see it's like the sticker is still on there. Yeah. So when I wash it off, it will be the green color of the fabric. All the stitching will be there. And it will just be this kind of paper that will come off. So the pros, like I said, you don't have to trace. However, the con is that you have to wash it. The other con is that it can make your needle sticky, which is really annoying. But if you have acetone, like, you know, to take your fingernail polish off, you can rub that on your needle and it will take the sticky stuff off too. So it just depends, you know, to pick your poison. So everything's got plus and minuses to it. You just kind of got to pick which one you feel like would be right for you. And like I said, there's no right or wrong with this. It just depends on, you know, what you like the best. Okay, let's move along. I've got some scissors here because obviously we need scissors to cut our threads. You can get really super fancy ones like these ones. You can get really pretty ones like these ones. These are from Cloudcraft. Hello, Tanya. I'm so happy I'm back too. And then, or you can just use whatever scissors you've got around the house. So if you've got like scissors in the kitchen or any other kind of scissors, they'll work. The only ones I would stay away from are the children's safety scissors because they don't actually cut your threads very sharply. They tend to make it like fluffy on the end. And you really do want like a nice pair of scissors for this. So that's the only thing there. I always say if you have a pair of tweezers, if you don't have a pair of tweezers just for embroidery, go out and buy some. These are just regular Revlon tweezers that you get like to do your eyebrows and stuff. I obviously don't use them for that. These are my embroidery tweezers. And they're really great if you want to pick out something that you've done. So say that you've stitched a flower and you're like, ew, that color is not what I expected. You can snip it out and then use little tweezers to get all the little things out, you know, just like that. The other thing that I like to have on hand is blue tack, and I'll show you what I use that for. I actually dropped this on the floor the other day, so it's like filled with Jessie's hairs. Absolutely disgusting, but we're going to use it to transfer our pattern, so that's good. Now we're at needles. So I use the same needle for every single project. That's just what I've always done. I'm on my second one now in like 8 years. This is like my favorite. The first one I lost at the lake when I was stitching hats for my brother's wedding. And that's gone, like real gone. So I found another one that I like, and it's this one. So what you'll need is one that has a big enough eye to fit all 6 strands in. And what I like to do is match the number of strands to the shaft of the needle that I'm going to use. So if I use more strands, I use one that has a thicker shaft here, obviously a bigger eye. If I use less strands, then I would like to use a thinner needle with a smaller eye. Okay, and the reason that I like to do that is because the hole that your needle makes is where your thread is going to sit in. All right, so imagine I've got just one strand, which is really, really thin, and I've got a big, big hole like that in my fabric. It's not going to sit in the same place, okay, or in the right place, right where I put it. It's going to kind of go down to the bottom of that hole. And I know this is getting really like particular. Yeah. You do not need to have a bunch of needles or anything like that. If you've only got one, just use one. Like, it's totally fine. But if you're really looking to up your embroidery game, then match the shaft of your needle with how many strands that you're going to use, and I promise you it'll make it so much better. So I have 3 that I tend to use, and I've got them all right here at the very end. So I've got my 6 strand, and I also use it for 5 or 4, sometimes 3. Then I've got 3 or 2 strands, and then I've got 1 strand. And you can totally see that the shaft of the needles slowly get bigger, just a little bit slightly. And the needle, the eye of the needle hole is what I was about to say. I promise you, I'm great at this. You're just going to have to trust me. The eye of the needle also gets bigger, okay? The needle hole, it's technical terms here, all right? So those are the ones I use the most. Over here, I've got a couple extra ones. This is the ones that I put in each of the kits, which is absolutely lovely. They're my favorite needles, and lots of people have said that they're their favorite needles as well. Hi, George. And then we've also got this blunt needle, which is great for woven wagon wheels. So that's great too. We've got this really long one, which we're not going to use, but yeah, they're nice to have them all in a row, isn't it? To have them just kind of have a little look. Okay, so we've got through almost all the tools except for hoops. So there's a couple different kinds of hoops that you can get. The most common are these bamboo hoops. They come 2 ways. The first way is where it has 2 pieces of hardware on the top. Well, technically 3. So you've got the set of brackets at the top, then the little screw, and then you've got a little like nut on the end here. Okay, so you need to hold this one and then tighten it or loosen it. Yeah, Stitchalongs are back. Yes. The other kind of bamboo hoop we have is that you kind of only have 2 instead of 3. So you've got these 2 brackets, and then the nut that you've got here is actually connected to the bracket. So you don't actually have to hold that. You just use the screw. You've got plastic hoops like this, which are also really great. They often have a little lip like this that kind of hold the hoops together. And you've got the same kind of situation at the top, tighten or loosen here. You can also get hardwood hoops. Let me see if I've got one. I've just got the oval ones, I think, in the hardwood at the moment. They're a little bit more heavy duty. They're a little bit thicker. They're also more expensive. So it just depends on what you like and what you can afford. I always feel like embroidery is really great to start if you're looking to do something, because you can go really upscale and spend a lot of money, or you can just get the cheapest stuff that you can afford right now, and then get into it a little bit more later. So this is another one of those. It's really, really beautiful, but it's got the same kind of idea, loosen, tighten. So what we're going to do is we're going to print our pattern out. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to print it. And then we're going to cut it out in a circle. We're going to put our fabric into our hoop. You need an 8-inch hoop for this one, okay? And we're gonna trace it on there. So the first way, if you do not have a printer, please do not be like, this is not for me. Because I did embroidery for about 2 years as my job before I even bought a printer. So it's totally doable, okay? And this is how. So when you get your pattern, you're just going to blow it up like this until it says actual size or 100%. And you can totally see that this fits right over top. Yeah? And then we can trace our pattern that way. So before I start to show you all the different ways and like all the little tips and tricks, let's put our fabric into our hoop, and then you can see how you're going to have to flip it certain ways depending on the certain way that you choose. Okay, so let's put that to the side for a minute. I might actually use this really nice brown color. Well, if anything, no, I should just use the white because that will be way easier to see in the video. What? That's like the perfect size. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to loosen up your hoop like this. Okay, put your fabric over the top, I like to make the grain of the fabric. So if you look really closely, you'll have fabric threads that go left to right and up to down. I almost said east to west. What is going on? It's my first time back, guys, okay? So if you look really closely, you'll see some that go up and down and some that go left to right, all right? We want to stay away from making them like this. That would make an X. Yeah, we want them to be straight up and down and left to right. This will help when you tighten your hoop. It'll help to keep your design nice and straight. So we're going to put it in there like this. Okay. You're going to put this right over top. And I like to keep about this much on each side. And you'll see I'm going to cut it later because I don't like these corners. They always get caught in my thread. Nightmare. All right. So what I like to do is keep about this much on the top and bottom. Because like I said, we're actually going to cut the rest. Okay, so we've got it in there, but do you see how you can see all the wrinkles? It's not tight. Yeah, not good. So what we need to do is tighten this up. And we're going to do that by tightening the screw at the top, but also pulling on the fabric. Okay? So tighten up your screw just a little bit, like halfway. All right, and you're going to use this here against your belly. Yeah, and slightly pull. And do you see how it pulls it so it's nice and flat there? So there's kind of like a hump here and a hump here. You're going to tighten that up all the way around. Now this is where a little goes a long way. Just tighten it a little bit all the way around. Someone's out mowing their lawn or something. Jesse's just opened the door because it wasn't closed all the way. Okay, so this is what we've got so far. You can see that my inner hoop actually has a notch cut out of it. So I'll switch hoops before we get started. Now this is still not done. You're going to want to tighten it all the way now. So tighten it a lot more and then pull it again. And you can see that this is starting to get really tight. That's what you want to do. Okay, pull it, pull it, pull it. And what we're looking for here is we're looking for your hoop to be nice and tight all the way around the edge. So if you run your finger around the edge, you shouldn't feel any dips or anything like that, where you can feel your finger go down. You'll see what I mean in a minute, because I'm pretty sure this is not a good hoop, which is why I threw it to the side. Okay, so after you do it one time, you're going to want to tighten it all the way up. And this means like as tight as you can possibly get it. And what you can do as well is take a piece of fabric. I often take like just the edge of my t-shirt because I don't have like an extra piece, and put it over the screw like this and really turn that to get it nice and tight. Okay, give it a last tug all the way around. Okay, and you should look for this. You hear that? Nice drum sound. That's a nice drum tight fabric. Okay, if you're wanting to do the stitch along on something like a towel or a doily or a pillowcase or a cushion cover, something like that, you're going to go about this in a completely different way. You do not want this drum tight sound. And that's because what's going to happen is we're actually stretching our fabric a little bit. Even though this is a non-stretch fabric, we're actually stretching it a little bit. So what happens is if you stretch it like this, and then you take it out of this hoop, all of your stitches that were nice and straight, yeah, when you take it out of the hoop, you're going to unstretch it just that little bit. Even though it's a little bit, they're going to be like this, which means that instead of being straight like this, they're going to end up being like this. Okay? So you want all of our stitches to lay nice and flat onto our fabric, which is why we want this nice drum tight sound. Now, the biggest problem with these hoops, especially the bamboo ones that you get in places like Michael's or Joann Fabrics, even on the internet, is that not both of the hoops will touch all the way around. And the way that you can check this is by putting your finger along the edge. So do you see how my finger dips like this? Yeah, and you can actually see that they're not actually touching there. See? Now what I can do is take this inner hoop here, take my fabric out, and just wrap from here to here with fabric. or like a masking tape, or like, you know, that athletic tape, things like that, just in this area. And that will actually make it so that it tightens it up and there's no gap there. So what you're going to want to do is see if it's gappy anywhere else. So I've got another little gap here. That's actually it, those two places. So I can do that. And you can tell on this one, I just did the whole thing. So what I did is just took a strip of fabric about that wide, about an inch, and you just wrap around your entire hoop. Now this is really great if you're going to stitch in one hoop and display in another hoop as well, because you can always make sure that your hoop is nice and tight. You don't have to do this. It's just if you haven't got an extra hoop, maybe you've only got one hoop, and you think, oh, now it's ruined because it's got a gap. It's not ruined. Just use that extra little piece of tape, okay? Or you can wrap your whole thing and then just tape where it's just a little bit loose still. So obviously mine was loose in these two spots. So I've just done that. So like I said, if you've bought one and you think, oh, now I have to throw it away, don't throw it away. You can always fix it. So this is what we've got so far. Obviously, I'm not going to trace onto this one because I need to fix those two spots first. Okay, so the first way is you're going to take your pattern, make it 100%, yeah? Now, I like to have my pattern on the front here. This is how I like to hold it. I like to hold it like this. So I've got my fingers kind of like on an angle, but also on the inside edge of that. And my thumbs like this. This is how I normally stitch if I'm not using my my hoop stand, which is the brick, the one with the brick. Yeah, here we go. So this right here is my hoop stand. You're supposed to sit on this part, but I don't sit on it. I instead use a brick and use it like that. That's how I do that's my setup. Okay. So when I'm not using my hoop stand, I hold it like this. Now, the first way is if you don't have a printer, you're actually going to flip it over like this. You're going to line up this right here at the top. Now, if you're in a really dark room, it works way better, okay? And you're just going to put it on the top of this like this, okay? And then you can trace your pattern that way. The other way you can do it, if you don't have an iPad, is you can actually use your computer screen. So if you have a desktop computer and you're thinking, oh, I only have a desktop and I don't have an iPad. You don't need one. Just do the exact same thing, put it on your computer screen, trace it up. Like I said, I think I did that for 2 years before I actually bought like a printer so that I didn't have to do it anymore. And it does work. Just do it nice and light and it's grand. You'll be fine. So yeah, that's the first way. Now, the only disadvantage, hi, Hannah. The only disadvantage is that, like I said, I like to have my pattern on the front like this because you saw how I like to hold my hoops, which is like this. So I can't have my pattern on the inside. So if you do have to do it that way, then all you need to do is take your fabric out, flip your fabric over, and then put it in this way. Some people really like to hold their hoops this way and they stitch this way and it's perfect for them. So if that's perfect for you, or if you want to give it a go, give it a go. That's completely fine. A lot of embroidery is finding what works for you. So what works for me might not work for you, or the way I do something might not be the way you do something. And that's totally fine. Like, there's no reason to be like, oh my gosh, I've been doing it wrong my whole life. You haven't. You just do it differently, and that's okay. Okay, so there's the first way. The second way is to print out your pattern. Yes, you have this. You cut it out, like I've already done. And this is the way that I like to do it. So you're going to take your pattern like this, line it up, yeah, and slide it up underneath, like that. Okay, so I've got those nice, big, bold lines. That's how I make my patterns. Amazing. So you can see them really clearly through your fabric, okay? And then this is where the blue tack comes in, because the biggest problem that I saw, you can use tape as well if you've got any tape. I just use blue tack because it's easy. It's there. It works for me, you know, good. It's good. Yeah, so what you're going to do, I like to put 3 or 4 pieces in, and you're going to put the blue tack on your paper and then also into the wood of your hoop like this. You're just going to kind of like squeeze it in there like that. And that's going to hold it so that your pattern doesn't move around as you're tracing it. The other way you can do this is you can put your pattern, tape it to a window, the window method, okay? You're going to end up with the same problem where you hold it up to the window, yeah? And you have your pattern on the inside, so you need to flip it around. But yeah, here we go. So this is what I like to do. I put my hand like this on the inside. Yeah, you've got your pen. And you just very carefully trace around and over. I'm not actually going to trace this because, like I said, I've got to fix these 2 spots. So I really don't want to, you know, mess around with any of that before I have a good hoop that I know I'm going to put it in. So just do your best with these small details. Some of the things are a little bit crowded, like over here. It looks like, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to do that? Don't focus on, I have to trace the pattern and it's a flower. Focus on, there's a line here. I need to trace it. Okay. Just follow the lines. All right. Just like that. So the other thing that we've got is thread. Now, all of the thread that I'm going to use, which is this 6-strand cotton, like this. Yeah. This brand is Anchor. You can get DMC. You can get stuff from Amazon. There's all kinds of different threads, but most of it is 6 strands because I'm not going to use any pearl cotton this time. Pearl cotton is you buy it by the thickness. So you can get thinner or thicker, but you can't actually separate it. So what we need is the, it's called the 6-stranded mullein. I'm probably saying it wrong. It looks like that. I like the Anchor brand. It's my favorite. DMC is great too. I just tend to work with Anchor, that's all. So this is what we've got. Looks like this. Yeah. Do the beauty blogger thing. And you can see there's little strands. Yeah. And there's 6 strands in each one. So you've got 2, 2, and 2. So at the very beginning of the video, normally I'll say hello, I'll say how are you, blah, blah, blah. And then I'll tell you what part of the pattern we're going to do because this is a beginner stitch along. Move that out of the way. A beginner stitch along. So maybe I might show you how to do one flower. So like just that one thing. Okay. Maybe we'll do a satin stitch and we'll just do the one flower, just the one thing. So we'll focus on one stitch per day, and then I'll show you where you can put those stitches and where they need to go in the pattern. So for example, all of the circles like this with the circle inside looks like a donut. These 5 are all the same stitch, all the same flower, and I can show you if you're a little bit more advanced or if you have a bunch of threads at home, how you can mix it up and do things a little bit differently. Maybe you think, oh, I know that stitch. Well, let's add a little bit to it. So we'll do that. And I'll also tell you at the beginning of the video the color that I've got and how many strands. And this is super important. And that's because you can use less strands, you can use more strands. But the biggest problem I find is people don't know when to use more or when to use less. And again, there's no right or wrong. It just depends on how you want it to look. Okay. So for example, 1 strand is much thinner than 6 strands. Yeah, so if you would like to do a satin stitch with 1 strand, you might be there for the entire day doing one petal, you know, because it's so thin. But if you use all 6 strands, it'll be quicker. It'll also look a little bulkier. You'll actually see all the strands. Whereas if you just use 1 strand, it'll be nice and smooth. So like I said, there's pros and cons to each one. I'm going to tell you a set number of strands, and then it's up to you if you'd like to do more than that and add more strands, or if you want to do less than that and add less. So I think that's pretty much it. As far as colors, I have a little color guide in here. Obviously, I'm not giving you the color numbers. I because I haven't picked color numbers. I just colored it how I want to color it. That's it. So this is kind of the suggestion. You can do it bigger or small, not bigger or smaller. Change up the colors if you'd like. And this is all of the colors that I've used in the drawing. Yeah. So if you want to match them color by color, then that's how many colors you need to get. And what I like to do is use one color somewhere and then use it another place as well. And that will make it so it's all really cohesive. So if you've got like this golden yellow, we'll also use it like on the inside of some of the flowers, or we'll also use it as, you know, some little details maybe in between some of the flowers, or the green is in this color leaf, but also this color leaf. This kind of leaf, you know, so you kind of mix and match, dot it all around, and it'll make it really, really nice. So there's no right or wrong. If you've got some colors at home, just throw them in. And yeah, I think it'll be really great. I know people get really stressed out about colors, but just choose the ones that you like. What I tend to do is get some dark ones and get some light ones. So you can kind of see the dark ones that I've got, the brown for the basket, a kind of a darker reddish. It's darker on the screen, but darker here. I've also got this kind of darker blue, darker green. Yeah. So think of it more like some dark colors, some medium colors, and some light colors. We've got dark greens, medium greens, and light greens, and that will give it a lot of variety. So there's no right or wrong way. Do you, you know? Choose the colors that you like. What else? I'm trying to think if there's anything else. No, I think that's it. The other thing I like to encourage is at the end of each day, head over to the Barmy Fox SAL. That's Stitchalong SAL hashtag, and go and leave some likes and comments on other people's work. It's honestly the best thing ever to get comments and shares and likes, and not for me, but for you. I feel like it's so encouraging, and that's such a big part of the Stitchalongs, is to, I think David's back. He took Miles for a walk, so we didn't have a crying baby in here. Thank you, Hannah. And if you share your work in your stories, if you use this hashtag and tag me, then I'll be able to share them into my stories, so I can share all of your work around as well. It's such a really, really big part of it, is sharing. So you can share the pictures if you want to share a picture on your Instagram grid, and you can see it here. Let's just log in here. I've been logged out. What do you mean? What do you mean? Oh, I think there's a problem there. It just keeps doing it over and over and over. I probably need to update this. But yeah, it's such a big part of everything because, come on. Oh, Lord. This is just ridiculous. Okay, here we go. 4,000. Oh my God. This will be my first Stitchalong. Oh, it's perfect. Okay, so if you go to top, that will be all the ones with like the most likes or the most interaction. If you go to recent, it'll take a little bit. Okay, so this is all of the recent ones that have used this hashtag. So you can see that some people updated their plant sanctuary from last year. We've got some advent calendar banners that we did. We've got people doing their projects, the felt ones. It's absolutely lovely. So it's such a good part. And the other fun thing is if you scroll all the way down, you'll find a lot of past projects. So there's inside the cozy cabin there. If you keep scrolling back, you'll find all the old Stitchalongs that we've done. And you can kind of like and comment on other people's work too. So honestly, the colors that you choose, this was the free one in autumn that I did with Anchor Crafting. If you remember that one, that's still on their website, and all the videos are on YouTube and on IGTV. So if you wanted to do that one, how lovely is that? Absolutely beautiful. Oh, obsessed. Oh, so gorgeous. So yeah, so if you wanted to do any of the old ones, have a little scroll back. This was the jungle stitch-along that we did. Yee! How amazing is that? So there's lots of different ones that you can do just by scrolling back. So take like 5 minutes, scroll a little bit on here, take a couple people's work. Honestly, it means so much, like seeing other people's work, but then also getting encouragement back, you know, because we're all doing it together. That's the point of the stitch along. It's to stitch along with each other. So don't ever feel like you're just one person doing this all by yourself. Because one, you've got me, but also you've got a bunch of other people too. So if you can get other people involved, that's great. And if you don't know any other stitchers, then head to the hashtag and message someone and say, hey, I'm doing the stitch along too. I'm telling you, my followers are absolutely lovely. Choking on my words. Literally. And they love having a chat and they love encouraging you, and you're not by yourself. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it, guys. So I'll put a little question box in my stories today, and I'll answer any questions that you've got about the stitch along or the prep videos. And if I've missed anything, then just let me know, and I'm happy to answer any questions. We start the 2nd of May, so you still have a while to like gather all your materials and things. But I just thought, since we're going to Devon tomorrow, from Saturday to Saturday, it'd be good to do the prep video. And then if you guys had any questions or if you wanted a little extra time to watch it, then you could. So enjoy your weekend. I hope you have a lovely Easter. Eat all the chocolates, because that's what I'm going to do. And yeah, I hope you have a great time, and I hope you'll join us for the stitch along. So yeah, I'll talk to you later. Bye.